haunting realization that I'd traveled backward in time. It was the same bed, the same pastel walls, the same world, and yet everything was different because I remembered it all. My entire life well beyond this moment. I remembered growing older, raising our children, feeling the rush of joy and the ache of hardship. Then I remembered the darkness, the final flicker of our life, and some cosmic twist that must have hurled us back here, to a moment long before we had children. In the hush of that dawn, I turned to look at my husband, Michael. He looked younger, the hint of gray that once decorated his temples gone, replaced by the rich brown hair I recalled from our earliest days. I felt my heart brimming with unspeakable gratitude that we had been granted a second chance. But as soon as he sensed me stir, I saw in his eyes a flicker of agitation. Over the next days that flicker became a steady flame. Before we had our children, before we built a life that spanned decades in my memory, Michael was telling me he wanted out. He wanted to break the bonds I had only begun to cherish anew. And so I found myself in a reality I never imagined. He and I had transcended time, carrying the memories of the future. Yet we were on the brink of parting ways, unraveling our marriage before it truly began. Chapter 1: The World Turned Back. My name is Sophia Reynolds. Well, legally I am Sophia Reynolds, but in my mind my name was once Sophia Reynolds Spencer, mother of 3. Each morning I wake, my heart lurches with the memory of small hands tugging at my skirt, squeals of laughter in the kitchen, the weight of a baby in my arms. Then I have to remind myself that in this timeline, I'm a newlywed with no children, living in a house that feels both familiar and terribly empty. At first I was convinced I was dreaming. I thought perhaps this was some ephemeral fantasy conjured by grief. The last thing I recalled from my first lifetime was lying in a hospital bed, the hum of machines around me, my grown son gripping my hand. I was battling a terminal illness. Michael was there, older, lines etched around his once youthful eyes. We'd had a tumultuous life, but we were still together, our hands still entwined at the end. Then the darkness overtook me and I expected that final emptiness. Instead I awoke in this bed, my bed from decades prior. My body younger, stronger, none of the sickness that slowly claimed me. At first I felt a wondrous sense of hope. We could do it all again, but better. Maybe we could avoid the heartbreaks. Maybe we could hold on to each other with renewed devotion. But then I realized Michael remembered everything too. I saw it in how he touched the wedding band on his finger, how he stared out the window with a haunted look in his gaze. I approached him softly, wanting to speak of the miracle we'd been given. Instead, he turned to me with a stark seriousness in his eyes. "Sophia," he said, voice low, "maybe we should think about separating." Felt like my world cracked. "Why? W just begun," I stammered. "Why would you say that?" He lowered his gaze. "Because I remember it all too. I remember the fights, the regrets, the years we spent feeling suffocated. Don't you recall how many sacrifices we made? For the kids, for obligations, for everything? Maybe this is a chance for us to not do it again." My chest tightened. Yes, I remembered the struggles, but I also remembered the love. I remembered the moments that made the heartbreak worthwhile. "But," I whispered, tears already burning in my eyes, "what about the good parts? What about our children?" He flinched, turning away. "We have no children now. Sophia, we're back to the start. We can choose differently. I don't want to go through all that again. We barely survived it last time." At his words I felt hollow. The man I loved for decades was rejecting the future that gave us so much meaning. I tried to reason, but he shook his head. Over the next days he barely slept in our bed, pacing the living room, rummaging through old photos. He insisted that if we parted ways now, we could spare ourselves the tragedies that overshadowed parts of our old life. And that was the question. Could the tragedies be avoided, or were they an inescapable result of the love we shared, culminating in the children we both adored? I refused to imagine a life without them. Lily, our eldest daughter with her fearless spirit, Ben, our gentle middle son, and Grace, our baby girl who lit up every corner of our hearts. The thought of them not existing in this reincarnated timeline tore me apart. With trembling resolve, I vowed not to let Michael slip away. Not so easily. Reincarnation or time travel or cosmic do-over, whatever this was, had to be for a reason. I had to remind him of the depth of our bond, to show him that yes, we had wounds, but we also had immeasurable joy. Chapter 2: Echoes of a Future Past. In the quiet suburb where our small house stands, life carried on as usual for everyone else. The neighbors, none the wiser, waved from their front porches. Our families, my mother, his father, had no idea we had glimpsed a lifetime that left deep scars. To them we were newly married, a couple brimming with potential. One afternoon as I washed dishes, I found myself staring at my reflection in the kitchen window. My reflection's face looked so young, nearly 2 decades younger than I felt inside. My heart panged with longing for the children I'd once spent evenings cooking for, cajoling into finishing homework, listening to their chatter about playground dramas. The house was too quiet now. My maternal instincts, honed over years that now apparently never happened, had no outlet. Michael, on the other hand, seemed determined to bury those memories. He accepted more shifts at work, returning late. He avoided affectionate gestures that once came naturally. Each day I'd muster the courage to ask if we could talk about it, if we could plan for the family we used to have. Each day he'd make an excuse: he was tired, he had errands, he needed space. At night I'd lie awake, tears slipping onto my pillow, remembering the final days in the hospital. In that first timeline, Michael had pressed my hand to his cheek, begging me to stay with him, to fight. "Don't leave me," he'd whispered. "I can't do this alone." He'd meant raising our children alone, living alone. Yet now, in a reality where I was healthy, he wanted to leave me. The irony crushed me. Desperate for an anchor, I sought out the comfort of my mother, who in this timeline was only in her 50s, vibrant and unburdened by the heartbreak she'd endured in the old timeline. She greeted me with a broad smile, oblivious to the torrent in my heart. We sat in her living room, the scent of her rose potpourri filling the air. I sipped tea, trying to steady my voice. I needed some sign of the motherly wisdom she'd once given me in the future. But her eyes held only the warmth of a parent who saw me as a newlywed, not the grief-laden woman from decades ahead. She asked me how married life was going, if I was thinking about starting a family soon. My throat tightened. If only she knew the truth, that I was already a mother in my heart, that I'd held babies that no longer existed in this timeline. "It's fine," I lied, tears threatening to spill. "Michael's busy with work. We're sorting things out." Her brow furrowed slightly. "New marriages can be tricky, dear. You'll learn each other's rhythms. Don't worry too much." I forced a smile, leaving soon afterward. My chest felt heavier than ever. I realized I was on my own. No one but Michael remembered the future we had shared. And if I couldn't reach him, I might lose everything that once gave my life meaning. Chapter 3. A rift grows. Tensions reached a boiling point one stormy evening. Rain battered the windows, lightning illuminating the living room in harsh flashes. Michael returned from work, hair damp, his expression grim. I sensed he was on the verge of telling me something permanent. He tossed his jacket aside and turned to me abruptly. "We need to talk," he muttered. I stood, heart pounding. "About what?" He raked a hand through his hair. This marriage." Swallowing, I motioned for him to sit, but he refused, pacing the room instead. "Michael, please," I began softly. "Let's be calm." His eyes blazed. "Calm? Sophia, how can I be calm when I know exactly how things turned out for us last time? All the regrets, the arguments, the tragedies." I cut in, voice trembling. "There were joys too. Our children, Michael. Lily, Ben, Grace." He flinched, turning away. "Don't," he said hoarsely. "Don't say their names." My chest constricted. Why not? They were real. Our life with them was real. Just because we're back here doesn't mean we have to erase everything. We can have them again. He spun around, anguish in his gaze. What if we can't? What if we mess it up differently this time? Or what if we're forced to watch them suffer all over again? Remember how Lily struggled with that illness when she was 10? How we nearly lost her? Remember the heartbreak Ben went through in high school? The bullies, the heartbreak. Or how Grace felt overshadowed by her siblings? I stared, tears coursing down my cheeks. But they overcame those struggles. We overcame them together. He let out a shuddering breath. "I can't watch them or you suffer. I can't go through losing you again. You don't realize how broken I was in that hospital. I can't endure that a second time." My heart twisted, recalling how powerless he'd looked, how my disease ravaged me while he tried to hold on to hope. "I'm healthy now," I insisted. "Maybe that won't happen again. We have a chance to change all the painful parts." He scoffed, bitterness lacing his tone. "No matter what we do, life is unpredictable. And I I'm too scared to do it again. I want out. His voice broke on the last word. For a moment, we both stood in silence, the storm raging outside an echo of our own turmoil. Finally, I found my voice. So you'd rather run away than try? He pressed his palms to his eyes. I'd rather spare us both the heartbreak that's sure to come. I'm sorry, Sophia. Maybe we're not meant to do this again. I felt a cold wave of despair. If that's truly what you want, I can't force you. But it breaks my heart to think we're throwing away the miracle we were given. He met my gaze, sorrow filling his eyes. I'm sorry, he repeated, then retreated to the bedroom, leaving me trembling in the lamplight, tears hot on my face. The rain hammered the roof as if echoing my grief. Chapter 4. Memories in Bloom. After that confrontation, Michael and I existed like strangers under one roof. He slept on the couch, insisted it was temporary until we decided how to formally separate. Days stretched into weeks. My soul felt hollow, as if the promise of our second chance had decayed into fear. One morning I stumbled upon a box in our attic, an old crate that I remembered from the future, but which in this timeline hadn't been opened yet. My heart pounded as I pried it open, discovering pictures I'd carefully stored away in a past life. To my confusion, many were pictures from our early years, but then I found a small album that never should have existed yet. It contained photos from Lily's 5th birthday, a day in the park with Ben and Grace's preschool graduation. My hands shook. These photos were evidence that our old life had been real, that I wasn't losing my mind. The pictures showed me older, lines near my eyes, a content smile. Michael stood beside me, pride shining in his eyes as Lily held a pink frosted cake. How did these snapshots materialize in this timeline? I suspected that the cosmic force that brought us back had also created anomalies, remnants of the life we had lived. Clutching the album, I sank onto the dusty floorboards, tears streaming as I traced Lily's beaming face. I remembered that day well. She was so excited about turning 5, so certain that being a big girl meant having grand adventures. We'd saved for months to afford a nice party with all her friends. Michael was exhausted from work but rallied to set up the decorations. We argued that morning about finances, but by the afternoon, we were laughing as Lily squealed with delight. I closed my eyes, recalling the ring of her laughter. They were more than children. They were the heartbeat of our marriage, the reason we kept going through every hardship. Could I let their existence be wiped away so easily? Steeling myself, I decided to show Michael. Maybe these physical reminders would jolt him out of his fear. So that evening, I placed the album on the coffee table. He returned from work, glancing at it warily. Without speaking, I opened it to the first page, Lily's birthday photo. He froze, color draining from his face. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. "It was in the attic," I said, voice trembling. "I don't know how it got here, but it's real. These are pictures from a life we once lived. Our children, Michael." He stared, reaching out a shaking hand to flip through the pages. Ben's first day of kindergarten. Grace's silly face at the beach. He stumbled onto a photo of me in the hospital, older, thinner from the illness, but smiling as Lily and Ben flanked me, Grace perched at the foot of the bed. His breath caught. "We were so proud of them," he murmured, tears gathering. "But it nearly broke us." I nodded, tears of my own falling. "Yes, but it also gave us more love than we could have dreamed. Don't you remember that day when Lily was so sick and we held each other, praying? When she recovered, we felt unstoppable, like nothing could tear us apart." He closed the album, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I'm still terrified, Sophia. I can't lose you again. I can't bury our children if something goes wrong. The memories haunt me." Gently I took his hand. "I can't promise no pain. But I can promise that if we face it together we can find joy again. Running away might save us from heartbreak, but it'll also rob us of the possibility of happiness." He squeezed my hand, heartbreak etched in every line of his face. "I need time," he whispered, voice raspy. "I can't decide right now." I nodded, wiping away tears. "I'll wait," I said softly, letting him pull away. At least he didn't push me aside. The album remained on the table, a silent testament to our old life. Chapter 5. A Ray of Light. Michael's walls didn't crumble overnight, but small changes occurred. He began lingering a bit in the kitchen after returning from work, asking how my day was. We found ourselves reminiscing, carefully, About the early years of our relationship, the pranks we pulled in college, the spontaneous road trips. The tension remained, but it was laced with a gentler undercurrent. One Sunday I suggested we visit the botanical gardens downtown. It was a place we used to take the children in the other timeline. Lily adored the rose garden, Ben liked the greenhouse of exotic plants, and Grace ran through the maze-like hedges, shrieking with glee. Michael hesitated but ultimately agreed. Walking through the gardens, we meandered past bursts of color, the sweet floral fragrance tugging at my memory. I found myself expecting to hear Lily's excited chatter. Instead there was only quiet, just me and Michael. Yet as we passed a pond of water lilies, I glimpsed a smile on his face. "This place," he murmured. Ben once insisted that the koi fish liked him best. He kept feeding them bread. "Remember?" I laughed, watery. "Yes." And he pouted for hours when we told him that was too much bread for the fish. His eyes softened at the recollection. We ambled further, crossing a little stone bridge. Then, under a canopy of flowering trees, I summoned the courage to speak the question that weighed on me. "Do you truly think our children deserve not to exist? They had their struggles, sure, but they lived, they loved. Isn't that enough reason to try again?" Michael's brow furrowed, pained. "I don't want them not to exist, Sophia. But I'm paralyzed by the fear that I'll fail them or fail you. Time didn't erase my guilt over how many times I put work first or lost my temper. You deserved better." I reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. "We can be better," I said gently. "We've had a glimpse of the mistakes we made. We can fix them. Or at least fix some. Don't you want to believe in that possibility?" He sighed, looking at the blossoming branches overhead. "I want to. But wanting and believing are different." Yet he kept holding my hand, leading me down the garden paths. We lingered in a rose arbor where I spotted a young couple taking engagement photos. A pang hit me, recalling how Michael and I had once done the same in our old timeline. How naive we were, but also how hopeful. As we left, he guided me to a small bench, turning to me with a somber expression. "Sophia, I can't promise I'm ready to commit wholeheartedly. But I'm not going to file for a divorce tomorrow either. I guess that's progress." My heart clenched with cautious relief. "It is," I whispered, placing a hand over his. "Thank you." We sat quietly as the sun dipped lower, letting the hush of the garden speak volumes for us. Perhaps there was hope that this second chance wouldn't slip through our fingers. Chapter 6. A Reunion of Souls. Over the next several weeks, a delicate thaw settled in. Michael moved back into our bedroom, albeit awkwardly. We had nights of conversation that stretched into the small hours, addressing regrets from our old timeline, confessing the times we felt misunderstood or alone. We pledged to communicate better, to not bury resentments. Each step felt tenuous, but it was forward movement. One night, as we lay side by side in bed, I mustered the courage to speak about the future. "What if we try for children again one day?" I asked softly. "Not immediately, but eventually?" He tensed, silent for a long moment. "I'm still afraid," he admitted. "But I can't deny how much I loved being a father. Even with all the worry." A small spark flared in my chest. "We can go slowly," I suggested. "We can see a counselor if needed. We can plan. We're younger now and maybe we can guide them better, shield them from some hardships. Or at least handle them with more grace." He turned his head, gazing at me in the dim light. "You'd forgive me for trying to abandon you?" My eyes misted. "Michael, we've both made mistakes. In our old timeline and now. I love you, both the man you were and the man you might become." His lips trembled in a hint of a smile. Then he cradled my face gently, leaning in for a kiss. Our first truly passionate kiss since returning. It felt like the bridging of two lifetimes, our hearts reuniting across the gulf of fear. When we parted, I rested my forehead against his, tears slipping free. That was the night I believed we could truly start anew. I felt the chain of tension dissolve, replaced by tenderness. We might not replicate the old timeline exactly, but that was the point. We could choose a better path. Chapter 7. A Life Reclaimed. Months rolled onward. We told no one about our reincarnation. They'd never believe us. But we quietly rebuilt our marriage. Michael and I attended therapy sessions, masked under the pretense of marriage counseling for newlyweds. Our counselor, a gentle woman named Dr. Ellis, praised our honesty in discussing old wounds. We couldn't share the truth that these wounds were from a future timeline, so we framed them as hypothetical or anxieties. Even so, the process helped us face our darkest fears. At home, we pored over old photo albums, some from this timeline, some eerily from the future. We laughed, recalling Lily's bossy attitude, Ben's shy curiosity, Grace's comedic timing. Each memory renewed our resolve to try again. Not to replicate the same path, but to welcome the possibility of children if fate allowed. We also learned from our old mistakes. I started a part-time job that gave me time for family, which was a priority I didn't have in the old timeline until it was too late. Michael set boundaries at work, refusing the never-ending promotions that cost him countless missed dinners. We carved out date nights, weekends away, small gestures to keep our connection strong. Of course, not every day was bliss. We argued over finances, over the lingering shadows of our past pains. Some nights, Michael tossed and turned, haunted by nightmares of my old illness. I'd wake him gently, reassure him I was here and healthy. We'd hold each other tight in the darkness, clinging to the present moment like a lifeline. Gradually, a sense of peace settled over me. Our second chance was being used well, I felt. I no longer woke with heartbreak that our children didn't exist. Rather, I woke with anticipation that we might see them again in some form if we were patient and open. Then one crisp autumn morning I realized I was late. My cycle, my body telling me something had changed. My heart pounded with excitement and terror. With trembling hands I took a pregnancy test. Positive. Tears flooded me, a swirl of joy and fear. I told Michael that evening, presenting him with the test in shaky fingers. He stared, breath caught in his throat. "We're going to be parents," he whispered, voice unsteady. "Yes," I said, tears brimming. Are we ready?" He enveloped me in a fierce hug. "Maybe not," he admitted, voice muffled against my hair. "But we'll do our best. I want this. I'm in it with you, Sophia." Euphoria washed over me. This child might not be Lily exactly, or perhaps it would be the same soul, shaped anew. We didn't know. But I felt an overwhelming sense of rightness. The emptiness that haunted me for months lifted, replaced by a sense of purpose. We were forging a new future, faithful to the love that bound us, yet open to new outcomes. Epilogue. Embracing tomorrow. It's been over a year since I discovered I was pregnant in this second life. I'm writing these words by the warm glow of a bedside lamp. Our daughter, her name is Lily again, but a Lily who might have a different journey, sleeps in a crib just a few steps away, her soft breathing the sweetest lullaby. She was born last spring, a tiny wailing bundle that reduced both Michael and me to tears of awe. Michael stands by the window, watching the snowfall outside, an affectionate smile lifting his features whenever he glances at Lily. Sometimes I see sadness flicker in his eyes, recalling the old timeline, the losses we endured, but mostly I see hope. The terror that once kept him from embracing fatherhood again has softened, replaced by the fierce devotion that was always in him. No one else knows how we got here, how we woke up young again, how we fought the ghosts of another lifetime. The world thinks we're just a couple who took a while to settle into marriage, then welcomed our first child. But in our hearts, we carry the memory of a life once lived, the deep ache of heartbreak and the precious knowledge that love is a choice we renew day by day. Sometimes I still wonder about our old timeline, about that final moment in the hospital, about whether my children in that reality continue on in some parallel dimension. Perhaps they do. Perhaps reincarnation means branching realities, each with its own tapestry of joys and sorrows. My mind can't fully grasp the cosmic mechanics, but I no longer feel the raw anguish of losing them. Instead, I have Lily in my arms again, or at least the essence of who she might become. And maybe someday we'll have more children, Ben, Grace, or entirely new souls. The future is open, brimming with possibilities. Michael and I aren't naive. We know life brings trials, that heartbreak can strike unexpectedly. But we've grown wiser from the past we once lived. We know each day is a gift, each argument or disappointment a chance to hold on to each other tighter. We choose to face the unknown hand in hand, determined to rewrite our story with compassion and courage. As for me, I've shed the resentment of almost losing my husband to fear. I understand why he hesitated. The pain we once shared was real and scarring. Yet seeing him cradle Lily in his arms, singing lullabies in a hushed voice, I know he no longer regrets stepping back into fatherhood. He embraces it with trembling joy, cherishing every coo, every sleepy smile. And he quietly acknowledges that if hardships arise, we'll shoulder them together. That's what I want to leave you with. The realization that heartbreak doesn't vanish in a second chance, but it can be transformed. Our reincarnation didn't erase the struggles or guarantee a perfect life. It just handed us an opportunity to choose differently, to love more boldly, to lean on each other in times of doubt. It reminded us that love, once formed, resonates across lifetimes, even if we try to run from it. So as I set down my pen, Lily stirs in her crib, letting out a soft whimper. Michael steps over to gently pick her up, pressing a tender kiss to her forehead. I watch them, tears filling my eyes, overwhelmed by the beauty of this second life. If tomorrow brings storms, we'll face them, together. If sorrow visits, we'll hold each other up. For I know now, across time and space, we were meant to build this family, to treasure each other in heartbreak and healing alike. That's our vow, a vow renewed not only by ceremony, but by the weight of memory and the hope of redemption. Our story continues, always with the knowledge that we carry 2 lifetimes in our hearts, forging a tomorrow that might mend the wounds of yesterday. And in that simple truth, I find more comfort than any mere promise could ever bring.